Good evening. From the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. From the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. And only Vice Presidential Debate of 2020. Sponsored by the Nonpartisan Commission. Sponsored by the Nonpartisan Commission on Presidential I'm Susan Page of USA Today. It is my honor to moderate this debate, an important part of our democracy. In Kingsbury Hall tonight, we have a small and socially distant audience, and we've taken extra precautions during this pandemic. Among other things, everyone in the audience is required to wear a face mask, and the candidates will be seated 12 feet apart. The audience is enthusiastic about their candidates, but they've agreed to express that enthusiasm only twice, at the end of the debate and now when I introduce the candidates. Please welcome California Senator Kamala Harris and Vice President Mike Pence.
Thank you.
Senator Harris and Vice President Pence, thank you for being here. We're meeting as President Trump and the First Lady continue to undergo treatment in Washington after testing positive for COVID-19. We send our thoughts and prayers to them for their rapid and complete recovery and for the recovery of everyone afflicted by the coronavirus. The two campaigns and the Commission on Presidential Debates have agreed to the ground rules for tonight. I'm here to enforce them on behalf of the millions of Americans who are watching. One note, no one in either campaign or at the Commission or anywhere else has been told in advance what topics I'll raise or what questions I'll ask. This 90-minute debate will be divided into 9 segments of about 10 minutes each. I'll begin a segment by posing a question to each of you, sometimes the same question, sometimes a different question on the same topic. You will then have 2 minutes to answer without interruption by me or the other candidate. Then we'll take 6 minutes or so to discuss the issue. At that point, although there will always be more to say, we'll move on to the next topic. We want a debate that is lively, but Americans also deserve a discussion that is civil. These are tumultuous times, but we can and will have a respectful exchange about the big issues facing our nation. Let's begin with the ongoing pandemic that has cost our country so much. Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control. Over the past week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots? A federal mandate to wear masks? You have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Thank you, Susan. Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country. And here are the facts. 210,000 dead people in our country in just the last several months. Over 7 million people who have contracted this disease. 1 in 5 businesses closed. We're looking at frontline workers who have been treated like sacrificial workers. We are looking at over 30 million people who in the last several months had to file for unemployment. And here's the thing. On January 28th, the Vice President and the President were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne, that it will affect young people, and that it would be contracted because it is airborne. And they knew what was happening, and they didn't tell you. Can you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare? They knew and they covered it up. The president said it was a hoax. They minimized the seriousness of it. The president said, you're on one side of his ledger if you wear a mask, you're on the other side of his ledger if you don't. And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan. They still don't have a plan. Well, Joe Biden does. And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all. That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country. And Joe Biden is the best leader to do that, and frankly, this administration has forfeited their right to re-election based on this.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, more than 210,000 Americans have died of COVID-19 since February. The U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population is higher than that of almost every other wealthy nation on earth. For instance, our death rate is 2.5 times that of Canada next door. You head the administration's coronavirus task force. Why is the U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population higher than that of almost every other wealthy country? And you have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Susan, thank you. And I want to thank the Commission and the University of Utah for hosting this event. And Senator Harris, it's a privilege to be on the stage with you. And our nation has gone through a very challenging time this year. But I want the American people to know that from the very first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China, President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done. And that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now, Senator Joe Biden opposed that decision. He said it was xenophobic and hysterical. But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to reinvent testing. More than 115 million tests have been done to date. We were able to see to the delivery of billions of supplies so our doctors and nurses had the resource and support they needed. And we began, really, before the month of February was out, to develop a vaccine and to develop medicines and therapeutics that have been saving lives all along the way. And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe, will have literally tens of millions of doses of a vaccine before the end of this year. The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. And I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the health of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be proud of the sacrifices they have made. It's saved countless American lives.
Senator Harris, would you like to respond?
Absolutely. Whatever the vice president is claiming the administration has done, clearly it hasn't worked. When you're looking at over 210,000 dead bodies in our country, American lives that have been lost, families that are grieving that loss. And you know, the vice president is the head of the task force and knew on January 28th how serious this was. And then thanks to Bob Woodward, we learned that they knew about it. And then when that was exposed, the vice president said, when asked, well, why didn't y'all tell anybody? He said, because the president wanted people to remain calm.
Well, let's get
no, but Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I want to add, but
here.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I have to
I'm
weigh
speaking.
in.
Yeah, you can have 15 more
wanna-
seconds, and then we'll give the vice president
Thank
a
you.
chance to
So I
respond.
want to ask the American people, how calm were you when you were panicked about where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you when your kids were sent home from school and you didn't know when they could go back? How calm were you when your children couldn't see your parents because you were afraid they could kill them?
Let's give Vice President Pence a chance to respond. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute to respond.
You know, there's not a day gone by that I haven't thought of every American family that's lost a loved one. And I want all of you to know that you'll always be in our hearts and in our prayers. But when you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months hasn't worked, that's a great disservice to the sacrifices the American people have made. The reality, if I may finish, Senator, the reality is Dr. Fauci said everything that he told the president in the Oval Office, the president told the American people. Now, President Trump, I will tell you, has boundless confidence in the American people, and he always spoke with confidence that we'd get through this together. But when you say it hasn't worked, when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March, they said if the president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million Americans. And that's the reality.
Thank you.
They also
Thank you,
said
Vice
to us,
President
if we did
Pence.
everything right, Susan, we could still lose more than 200,000 Americans.
Vice President
Now, one
Pence.
life lost is too
Thank you.
many, Susan. But the American people, I believe, deserve credit for the sacrifices that they have made, putting the health of their family and their neighbors first, our doctors, our nurses, our first
Thank you, Vice
responders.
President Pence.
And I'm going to speak up on behalf of what the American people have done.
Vice President Pence, you were in the front row in a Rose Garden event 11 days ago at what seems to have been a super spreader event for senior administration and congressional officials. No social distancing, few masks, and now a cluster of coronavirus cases among those who were there. How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to protect themselves from COVID when you at the White House have not been doing so?
Well, the American people have demonstrated over the last 8 months that when given the facts, they're willing to put the health of their families and their neighbors and people they don't even know first. President Trump and I have great confidence in the American people and their ability to take that information and put it into practice. In the height of the epidemic, when we were losing a heartbreaking number of 2,500 Americans a day, we surged resources to New Jersey and New York and New Orleans and Detroit. We told the American people what needed to be done, and the American people made the sacrifices. When the outbreak in the Sun Belt happened this summer, again, Americans stepped forward. But the reality is the work of the President of the United States goes on. A vacancy on the Supreme Court of the United States has come upon us, and the President introduced Judge Amy Coney
Yes,
Barrett.
thank you. Thank you, Vice
But
President
at
Pence.
that, if I may say, that Rose Garden event, there's been a great deal of speculation about it. My wife Karen and I were there and honored to be there. Many of the people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested
Yes.
for coronavirus, and it was an outdoor event, which all of our scientists regularly and routinely advise. The difference here is President Trump and I trust the American people to make choices in the best interest of their health. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris consistently talk about mandates, and not just mandates with the coronavirus, but a government takeover of health care,
Thank
the
you, Vice
Green New
President Pence.
Deal, all government control. We're about freedom and respecting the freedom of the American people.
Let's talk about respecting the American people. You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage
Which we've
to be a
always
leader,
done.
speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration stood on information that if you had as a parent, if you had as a worker, knowing you didn't have enough money saved up, and now you're standing in a food line because of the ineptitude of an administration that was unwilling to speak the truth to the American people. So let's talk about caring about the American people. The American people have had to sacrifice far too much because of the incompetence of this administration. It is asking too much of the people.
Susan, we talked
No,
about
Vice
It
this.
is
President
asking
Pence.
too much of the people.
Look-
That they would not be equipped with the information they need to help themselves to protect
Susan,
their
the
parents
President-
and
No,
their
I'm
children.
sorry. Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, I'm sorry.
It's
I meant
fine,
to
I'm
say-
Kamala.
No, you're Senator Harris to me. For life to get back to normal, Dr. Anthony Fauci and other experts say that most of the people who can be vaccinated need to be vaccinated. But half of Americans now say they wouldn't take a vaccine if it was released now. If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it, absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Vice President Pence, there have been a lot of repercussions from this pandemic. In recent days, the president's diagnosis of COVID-19 has underscored the importance of the job that you hold and that you are seeking. That's our second topic tonight. It's the role of the vice president. One of you will make history on January 20th. You will be the vice president to the oldest president the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be 74 years old on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old. That already has raised concerns among some voters, concerns that have been sharpened by President Trump's hospitalization in recent days. Vice President Pence, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with President Trump about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes without interruption.
Well, Susan, thank you, although I would like to go back.
I think we need to move on to the issue of
Well, thank you, but I would like to go back because the reality is that we're going to have a vaccine, Senator, in record time, in unheard of time, in less than a year. We have 5 companies in phase 3 clinical trials, and we're right now producing tens of millions of doses. So the fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives. The reality is that we will have a vaccine, we believe, before the end of this year. And it will have the capacity to save countless American lives. And your continuous undermining of confidence in a vaccine is it's just unacceptable. And let me also say, you know, the reality is when you talk about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Thankfully, it ended up not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, not 7.5 million people contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus, in 2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives. His own chief of staff, Ron Klain, would say last year that it was pure luck that they did, quote, everything possible wrong. And we learned from that. They left the strategic national stockpile empty. They left an empty and hollow plan, but we still learned from it. And I think the American people, I'm going to say again, can be proud of what we have done. And Senator, please stop undermining confidence in a vaccine.
Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked Vice President Pence, which is, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with Vice President Biden about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, and if you win the election next month, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So let me tell you, first of all, the day I got the call from Joe Biden, it was actually a Zoom call, asking me to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I thought about my mother, who came to the United States at the age of 19, gave birth to me at the age of 25 at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. And the thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud, and she must be looking down on this. You know, Joe and I were raised in a very similar way. We were raised with values that are about hard work, about the value and the dignity of public service, and about the importance of fighting for the dignity of all people. And I think Joe asked me to serve with him because, you know, I have a career that included being elected the first woman district attorney of San Francisco, where I created models of innovation for law enforcement in terms of reform of the criminal justice system. I was elected the first woman of color and black woman to be elected Attorney General of the state of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice. And there I took on everything from transnational criminal organizations to the big banks that were taking advantage of homeowners to for-profit colleges that were taking advantage of veterans. And then, of course, now I serve in the United States Senate as only the second black woman ever elected to the United States Senate. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee, where I've been in regular receipt of classified information about threats to our nation and hotspots around the world. I've traveled the world. I've met with our soldiers in war zones. And I think Joe has asked me to serve with him because he knows that we share a purpose which is about lifting up the American people. And after the 4 years that we have seen of Donald Trump unifying our country around our common values and principles.
Thank you, Senator Harris. You know, neither President Trump nor Vice President Biden has released a sort of detailed health information that had become the modern norm until the 2016 election. And in recent days, President Trump's doctors have given misleading answers or refused to answer basic questions about his health. And my question to each of you in turn is this information voters deserve to know? Vice President Pence, would you like to go first?
Well, Susan, thank you. And let me say, on behalf of the President and the First Lady, how moved we've all been by the outpouring of prayers and concern for the President. And I do believe it's emblematic of the prayers and the concern that have ushered forth for every American impacted by the coronavirus. But the care the President received at Walter Reed Hospital, the White House doctors, was exceptional. And the transparency that they practiced all along the way will continue. The American people have a right to know about the health and well-being of their president, and will continue to do that. But I'm just extremely grateful and was more than a little moved by the broad and bipartisan support. And Senator, I want to thank you and Joe Biden for your expressions of genuine concern. And I also want to congratulate you, as I did on that phone call, on the historic nature of your nomination.
Thank you.
I never expected to be on this stage 4 years ago, so I know the feeling. But the reality is we've got an election before the American people in the midst of this challenging year. And the stakes have never been higher, but I think the choice has never been clearer.
I want to give Senator Harris a chance to respond to the same question I asked, which is, do voters have a right to know more detailed health information about presidential candidates and especially about presidents, especially when they're facing some kind of challenge?
Absolutely, and that's why Joe Biden has been so incredibly transparent, and certainly by contrast, the president has not, both in terms of health records, but also let's look at taxes. We now know, because of great investigative journalism, that Donald Trump paid $750 in taxes. When I first heard about it, I literally said, "You mean $750,000? And it was like, no, $750. We now know Donald Trump owes and is in debt for $400 million. And just so everyone is clear, when we say in debt, it means you owe money to somebody. And it'd be really good to know who the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, owes money to, because the American people have a right to know what is influencing the President's decisions. And is he making those decisions on the best interest of the American people, of you, or self-interest? So, Susan, I'm glad you asked about transparency, because it has to be across the board. Joe has been incredibly transparent over many, many years. The one thing we all know about Joe, he puts it all out there. He is honest, he is forthright, but Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been about covering up everything.
Thank you, Senator Harris. I want to give you a chance to respond, Vice President.
Well, look, I respect the fact that Joe Biden spent 47 years in public life. I respect your public service as well.
Thank you.
But the American people have a president who's a businessman, he's a job creator, who's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes, payroll taxes, property taxes. He's created tens of thousands of American jobs. And the president said those public reports are not accurate. And the president's also released literally stacks of financial disclosures the American people can review just as the law allows. But the distinction here is that Joe Biden, 47 years in public service, compared to President Donald Trump, who brought all of that experience 4 years ago.
Thank you, Vice
and
President.
turned this economy around by cutting taxes, rolling back regulation, unleashing American energy, fighting for free and fair trade, and all of that's on the line if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
You know, that's a
in
good
the White
segue into our third
great
topic,
segue.
which is about the economy. This has been another aspect of life for Americans that's been so affected by this coronavirus. We have a jobs crisis brewing. On Friday, we learned that the unemployment rate had declined to 7.9% in September, but the job growth had stalled, and that was before the latest round of layoffs and furloughs in the airline industry at Disney and elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of discouraged workers have stopped looking for work. Nearly 11 million jobs that existed at the beginning of the year haven't been replaced. Those hardest hit include Latinos, Blacks, and women. Senator Harris, the Biden-Harris campaign has proposed new programs to boost the economy, and you would pay for that new spending by raising $4 trillion in taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations. Some economists warn that could curb entrepreneurial ventures that fuel growth and create jobs. Would raising taxes put the recovery at risk? And you have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
Thank you. On the issue of the economy, I think there couldn't be a more fundamental difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Joe Biden believes you measure the health and the strength of America's economy based on the health and the strength of the American worker and the American family. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who measures the strength of the economy based on how rich people are doing, which is why he passed a tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America, leading to a $2 trillion deficit that the American people are going to have to pay for. On day one, Joe Biden will repeal that tax bill. He'll get rid of it. And what he'll do with the money is invest it in the American people. And through a plan that is about investing in infrastructure, something that Donald Trump said he would do. I remember hearing about some infrastructure week. I don't think it ever happened. But Joe Biden will do that. He'll invest in infrastructure. It's about upgrading our roads and bridges, but also investing in clean energy and renewable energy. Joe is going to invest that money in what we need to do around innovation. There was a time when our country believed in science and invested in research and development so that we were an innovation leader on the globe. Joe Biden will use that money to invest in education. So, for example, for folks who want to go to a 2-year community college, it will be free. If you come from a family that makes less than $125,000, you'll go to a public university for free. And across the board, we'll make sure that if you have student loan debt, it's cut by $10,000. That's how Joe Biden thinks about the economy, which is it's about investing in the people of our country as opposed to passing a tax bill, which had the benefit of letting American corporations go offshore to do their business.
Thank you,
You're
Senator
welcome.
Harris. Vice President Pence, your administration has been predicting a rapid and robust recovery, but the latest economic report suggests that's not happening. Should Americans be braced for an economic comeback that is going to take not months, but a year or more? You have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
When President Trump and I took office, America had gone through the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. Because when Joe Biden was vice president, they tried to tax and spend and regulate and bail our way back to a growing economy. President Trump cut taxes across the board. Despite what Senator Harris says, the average American family of 4 had $2,000 in savings in taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hardworking Americans, the average household income for a family of 4 increased by $4,000 following President Trump's tax cuts. But America, you just heard Senator Harris tell you, on day one, Joe Biden's going to raise your taxes. It's really remarkable to think, Susan. I mean, right after a time where we're going through a pandemic that lost 22 million jobs at the height, we've already added back 11.6 million jobs because we had a president who cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, fought for free and fair trade, and secured $4 trillion from the Congress of the United States to give direct payments to families, save 50 million jobs through the Paycheck Protection Program. We literally have spared no expense to help the American people and the American worker through this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to raise taxes. They want to bury our economy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal, which you were one of the original co-sponsors of in the United States Senate. They want to abolish fossil fuels and ban fracking, which would cost hundreds of thousands of American jobs all across the heartland. And Joe Biden wants to go back to the economic surrender to China, that when we took office, half of our international trade deficit was with China alone. And Joe Biden wants to repeal all of the tariffs that President Trump put into effect to fight for American jobs and American workers. Joe Biden says democracy's on the ballot. Make no mistake about it, Susan. The American economy, the American comeback is on the ballot with 4 more years of growth and opportunity, 4 more years of President Donald Trump. 2021 is going to be the biggest economic year in the history of this country.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Senator Harris.
Well, I mean, I thought we saw enough of it in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is, Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000 a year.
He said he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait.
I'm speaking.
It'd be important if you said the truth. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that gave the average working family $2,000 in a tax break every single year. Senator,
that is
that's the math.
absolutely not true. That
Is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay. Joe Biden will not raise taxes on anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden is the one who, during the Great Recession, was responsible for the Recovery Act that brought America back. And now the Trump-Pence administration wants to take credit when they rode the coattails of Joe Biden's success for the economy that they had at the beginning of their term. Of course, now the economy is a complete disaster. But Joe Biden, on the one hand, did that. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has reigned over a recession that is being compared to the Great Depression. On the one hand, you have Joe Biden, who was responsible with President Barack Obama for the Affordable Care Act, which brought health care to over 20 million Americans and protected people with pre-existing conditions. And what it also did is it saved those families who otherwise were going bankrupt because of hospital bills they could not afford. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who's in court right now, trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which means that you will lose protections if you have pre-existing conditions. And this is very important, Susan.
Yes,
and it's
but
important
we need to give Vice President.
I'd just like to, he interrupted me, and I'd like to just finish, please. If you have a pre-existing condition, heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming for you. If you love someone who has a pre-existing condition, they're coming for you. If you are under the age of 26 on your parents' coverage, they're coming for you.
Senator Harris, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, I hope we have a chance to talk about health care, because Obamacare was a disaster. The American people remember it well. And President Trump and I have a plan to improve health care and to protect pre-existing conditions for every American. But look, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. You yourself said on multiple occasions when you were running for president that you would ban fracking. Joe Biden looked at a supporter in the eye and pointed and said, I guarantee that we will abolish fossil fuels. They have a $2 trillion version of the Green New Deal, Susan, that your newspaper, USA Today, said really wasn't that very different from the original Green New Deal. More taxes, more regulation, banning fracking, abolishing fossil fuel, crushing American energy, and economic surrender to China is a prescription for economic decline. President Trump and I will keep America growing. The V-shaped recovery that's underway right now will continue with 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House.
Thank you very, very much, Vice President Pence. Once again, you've provided the perfect segue to a new topic, which is climate change. And Vice President Pence, I'd like to pose the first question to you. This year, we've seen record-setting hurricanes in the South. Another one, Hurricane Delta, is now threatening the Gulf. And we have seen record-setting wildfires in the West. Do you believe, as the scientific community has concluded, that man-made climate change has made wildfires bigger, hotter, and more deadly, and have made hurricanes wetter, slower, and more damaging? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. Well, Well, first, I'm very proud of our record on the environment and on conservation. According to all of the best estimates, our air and land are cleaner than any time ever recorded. Our water is among the cleanest in the world. And just a little while ago, the President signed the Outdoors Act. It's the largest investment in our public lands and public parks in 100 years. So President Trump has made a commitment to conservation and to the environment. Now, with regard to climate change, the climate is changing. But the issue is, what's the cause and what do we do about it? President Trump has made it clear that we're going to continue to listen to the science. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would put us back in the Paris Climate Accord. They'd impose the Green New Deal, which would crush American energy, would increase the energy costs of American families in their homes, and literally would crush American jobs. And President Trump and I believe that the progress that we have made in a cleaner environment has been happening precisely because we have a strong free market economy. You know, what's remarkable is the United States has reduced CO2 more than the countries that are still in the Paris Climate Accord, but we've done it through innovation, and we've done it through natural gas and fracking, which, Senator, the American people can go look at the record. I know Joe Biden says otherwise now, as you do, but the both of you repeatedly committed to abolishing fossil fuel and banning fracking. And so by creating the kind of American innovation, we're actually steering toward a stronger and better environment. With regard to wildfires, President Trump and I believe that forest management has to be front and center, and even Governor Gavin Newsom from your state has agreed we've got to work on forest management. And with regard to hurricanes, the National Oceanic Administration tells us that actually, as difficult as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
there are no more hurricanes today than there were 100 years ago.
Thank you.
But many of the climate alarmists
President Pence,
use
I'm sorry, your time is
hurricanes
up.
and wildfires to try and
Thank
sell
you,
their
Vice
bill of
President
goods of
Pence.
a Green New Deal. And President Trump and I are going to always put
Thank you,
American
Vice
jobs and
President
American
Pence.
workers first.
Senator Harris, as the Vice President mentioned, you co-sponsored the Green New Deal in Congress. But Vice President Biden said in last week's debate that he does not support the Green New Deal. But if you look at the Biden-Harris campaign website, it describes the Green New Deal as a crucial framework. What exactly would be the stance of a Biden-Harris administration toward the Green New Deal? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. So first of all, I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact. That is a fact. I will repeat that Joe Biden has been very clear that he thinks about growing jobs, which is why he will not increase taxes for anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. Joe Biden's economic plan, Moody's, which is a reputable Wall Street firm, has said will create 7 million more jobs than Donald Trump's. And part of those jobs that will be created by Joe Biden are going to be about clean energy and renewable energy. Because you see, Joe understands that the west coast of our country is burning, including my home state of California. Joe sees what is happening on the Gulf states, which are being battered by storms. Joe has seen and talked with the farmers in Iowa, whose entire crops have been destroyed because of floods. And so Joe believes, again, in science. I'll tell you something, Susan. I served, when I first got to the Senate, on the committee that's responsible for the environment. Do you know this administration took the word science off the website and then took the phrase climate change off the website? We have seen a pattern with this administration, which is they don't believe in science. And Joe's plan is about saying we're going to deal with it, but we're also going to create jobs. Donald Trump, when asked about the wildfires in California, and the question was, you know, the science is telling us this, you know what Donald Trump said? Science doesn't know. So let's talk about who is prepared to lead our country over the course of the next 4 years on what is an existential threat to us as human beings. Joe is about saying we're going to invest that in renewable energy. It's going to be about the creation of millions of jobs. We will achieve net zero emissions by 2050, carbon neutral by 2035. Joe has a plan. This has been a lot of talk from the Trump administration, and really it has been to go backward instead of forward. We will also re-enter the climate agreement with pride.
Senator Harris just said that climate change is an existential threat. Vice President Pence, do you believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
As I said, Susan, the climate is changing. We'll follow the science. But once again, Senator Harris is denying the fact that they're going to raise taxes on every American. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that on day one he was going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. Those tax cuts delivered $2,000 in tax relief to the average family of four across America. And with regard to banning fracking, I just recommend that people look at the record. You yourself said repeatedly that you would ban fracking. You were the first Senate co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. And while Joe Biden denied the Green New Deal, Susan, thank you for pointing out, the Green New Deal is on their campaign website. And as USA Today said, it's essentially the same plan as you co-sponsored with AOC when she submitted it in the Senate. And you just heard the senator say that she's going to resubmit America to the Paris Climate Accord. Look, the American people have always cherished our environment. We'll continue to cherish it. We've made great progress reducing CO2 emissions through American innovation and the development of natural gas through fracking. We don't need a massive $2 trillion Green New Deal that would impose all new mandates on American businesses and American families.
Thank you.
Joe Biden wants us to retrofit 4 million American business buildings. It makes no sense. It will cost jobs. President Trump is going to put America first. He's going to put jobs first, and we're going to take care of our environment and follow the science.
Thank you,
But, on the issue of jobs,
Senator Harris.
Let's talk about that. The vice president earlier referred to, as part of what he thinks is an accomplishment, the president's trade war with China. You lost that trade war. You lost it. What ended up happening is because of a so-called trade war with China, America lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Farmers have experienced bankruptcy because of it. We are in a manufacturing recession because of it. And when we look at where this administration has been, there are estimates that by the end of the term of this administration, they will have lost more jobs than almost any other presidential administration. And the American people know what I'm talking about. You know, I think about 20-year-olds. You know, we have a 20-year-old, a 20-something-year-old, who are coming out of high school and college right now, and you're wondering, is there going to be a job there for me? We're looking at people who are trying to figure out how they're going to pay rent by the end of the month. Almost half of American renters are worried about whether they're going to be able to pay rent by the end of the month. This is where the economy is in America right now, and it is because of the catastrophe and the failure of leadership of this administration.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you just 15 seconds to respond, because then I want to move on to
Well, I'd love to respond. Look, lost the trade war with China. Joe Biden never fought it. Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China over the last several decades. And again, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. When Joe Biden was vice president, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs, and President Obama said they were never coming back. He said we needed a magic wand to bring them back. In our first 3 years after we cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, this administration saw 500,000 manufacturing jobs created. And that's exactly the kind of growth we're going to continue to see as we bring our nation through this pandemic. But a Green New Deal, your massive new mandates, your Paris Climate Accord, it's going to kill jobs this time, just like it killed jobs.
I just need to respond very briefly,
15 seconds, and
Thank
then
you.
we'll move
Thank
on.
you. Joe Biden is responsible for saving America's auto industry, and you voted against it. So let's set the record straight. Thank you.
I'd like to talk about China. We have, as our next topic, we have no more complicated or consequential foreign relationship than the one with China. It is a huge market for American agricultural goods. It's a potential partner in dealing with climate change in North Korea. And in a video tonight, President Trump again blamed it for the coronavirus, saying China will pay. Vice President Pence, how would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Competitors, adversaries, enemies? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Susan. Well, before I leave that, let me speak to voting records if I can. You know, everybody knows that NAFTA cost literally thousands of American factories to close. We saw automotive jobs go south of the border. President Trump fought to renegotiate NAFTA. And the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement is now the law of the land. American people deserve to know Senator Kamala Harris was one of only 10 members of the Senate to vote against the USMCA. It was a huge win for American auto workers. It was a huge win for American farmers, especially dairy in the upper Midwest. But Senator, you said it didn't go far enough on climate change, that you put your radical environmental agenda ahead of American auto workers and ahead of American jobs. The American people deserve to know that. Is probably why Newsweek magazine said that Kamala Harris was the most liberal member of the United States Senate in 2019, more liberal than Bernie Sanders, more liberal than any of the others in the United States Senate. So now with regard to China, look, Susan, first and foremost, China is to blame for the coronavirus. And President Trump is not happy about it. He's made that very clear, made it clear again today. China and the World Health Organization did not play straight with the American people. They did not let our personnel into China to get information on the coronavirus until the middle of February. Fortunately, President Trump, in dealing with China from the outset of this administration, standing up to China that had been taking advantage of America for decades in the wake of Joe Biden's cheerleading for China, President Trump made that decision before the end of January to suspend all travel from China. And again, the American people deserve to know Joe Biden opposed President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China. He said it was hysterical. He said it was
Thank you,
xenophobic.
Vice President Pence.
But President Trump has stood up to China. We're going to continue to stand strong.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
We want to improve the relationship, but we're going to level the playing field, and we're going to hold China accountable for what they did to America with the coronavirus.
Thank you. Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked the Vice President. How would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Are we competitors, adversaries, enemies? You'll have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Susan, the Trump administration's perspective and approach to China has resulted in the loss of American lives, American jobs, and America's standing. There's a weird obsession that President Trump has had with getting rid of whatever accomplishment was achieved by President Obama and Vice President Biden. For example, they created within the White House an office that basically was responsible for monitoring pandemics. They got rid of it.
Not true.
There was a team of disease experts that President Obama and Vice President Biden dispatched to China to monitor what is now predictable and what might happen. They pulled them out. We now are looking at 210,000 Americans who have lost their lives. Let's look at the job situation. We mentioned before the trade deal, the trade war, they wanted to call it, with China. It resulted in the loss of over 300 manufacturing jobs and a manufacturing recession, and the American consumer paying thousands of dollars more for goods because of that failed war that they called it. Then let's talk about standing. Pew, a reputable research firm, has done an analysis that shows that leaders of all of our formerly allied countries have now decided that they hold in greater esteem and respect Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese Communist Party, than they do Donald Trump, the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States. This is where we are today because of a failure of leadership by this administration.
Senator Harris, we've seen changes in the role of the United States in terms of global leadership over the past 4 years. And of course, times do change. What's your definition? We've seen strains with China, of course, as the Vice President mentioned. We've seen strains with our traditional allies in NATO and elsewhere. What is your definition of the role of American leadership in 2020?
So Joe is, I love talking with Joe about a lot of these issues. And, Joe, I think he said it quite well. He says, foreign policy, it might sound complicated, but really it's relationships. So just think about it as relationships. And so we know this in our personal and professional relationships. You got to keep your word to your friends. Got to be loyal to your friends. People who've stood with you, got to stand with them. You got to know who your adversaries are and keep them in check. But what we have seen with Donald Trump is that he has betrayed our friends and embraced dictators around the world. Let's take, for example, Russia. So, I serve on the Intelligence Committee of the United States Senate. America's intelligence community told us Russia interfered in the election of the President of the United States in 2016 and is playing in 2020. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, said the same. But Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, prefers to take the word of Vladimir Putin over the word of the American intelligence community. You look at our friends at NATO. He has walked away from agreements. You can look at the Iran nuclear deal, which now has put us in a position where we are less safe because they are building up what might end up being a significant nuclear arsenal. We were in that deal, guys. We were in the Iran nuclear deal with friends, with allies around the country. And because of Donald Trump's unilateral approach to foreign policy, coupled with his isolationism, he pulled us out and has made America less safe. So, Susan, it's about relationships. And the thing that has always been part of the strength of our nation, in addition to our great military, has been that we keep our word. But Donald Trump doesn't understand that because he doesn't understand what it means to be honest.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, thank you. Well, President Trump kept his word when we moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. When Joe Biden was vice president, they promised to do that, and they never did. We've stood strong with our allies, but we've been demanding. NATO is now contributing more to our common defense than ever before, thanks to President Trump's leadership. We've strengthened our alliances across the Asia-Pacific, and we've stood strong against those who would do us harm. You know, when President Trump came into office, ISIS had captured an area of the Middle East the size of Pennsylvania. But President Trump unleashed the American military, and our armed forces destroyed the ISIS caliphate and took down their leader, al-Baghdadi, without one American casualty. Al-Baghdadi was responsible for the death of thousands. But notably, America's hearts today are with the family of Kayla Mueller, her parents of which are here with us tonight in Salt Lake City. Today, two of the ISIS killers responsible for Kayla Mueller's murder were brought to justice in the United States. Jihadi John was killed on the battlefield along with the other beetle. The reality is that when Joe Biden was vice president, we had an opportunity to save Kayla Mueller. It breaks my heart to reflect on it, but the military came into the Oval Office, presented a plan. They said they knew where Kayla was. Baghdadi had held her for 18 months, abused her mercilessly before they killed her. But when Joe Biden was vice president, they hesitated for a month. And when armed forces finally went in, it was clear she'd been moved 2 days earlier. And her family says with a heart that broke the heart of every American that if President Donald Trump had been president, they believe Kayla would be alive today.
Thank you, Vice
Look,
President.
we destroyed the ISIS caliphate. And you talk about re-entering the Iran nuclear deal. I mean, the last administration transferred $1.8 billion to the leading state sponsor
Thank you, Vice
of
President
terrorism.
Pence.
President Donald Trump got us out of the deal.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
And when Qasem Soleimani was traveling to Baghdad
Thank you,
to do
Vice President
harm
Pence.
to Americans, President Donald Trump took
Thank you,
him
Vice
out.
President Pence.
And America is safer, our allies are safer, and the American people know President Donald Trump will never
Thank you, Vice
hesitate
President
to take
Pence.
action.
I would like to give Senator Harris a chance to respond, but not at such great length, because of course there are other topics we want to talk about.
But I would like equal time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
First of all, to the Mueller family, I know about your daughter's case, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What happened to her is awful, and it should have never happened. And I know Joe feels the same way. And I know that President Obama feels the same way. But you mentioned Soleimani. Let's start there. So after the strike on Soleimani, there was a counter strike on our troops in Iraq. And they suffered serious brain injuries. And do you know what Donald Trump dismissed them as? Headaches. And this is about a pattern of Donald Trump's, where he has referred to our men who are serving in our military as suckers and losers. Donald Trump, who went to Arlington Cemetery and stood above the graves of our fallen heroes and said, what's in it for them? Because, of course, he only thinks about what's in it for him. Let's take what he said about John McCain, a great American hero. And Donald Trump says he doesn't deserve to be called a hero because he was a prisoner of war. And this is very important when you want to talk about who is the current commander-in-chief and what they care about and what they don't care about. Public reporting that Russia had bounties on the heads of American soldiers. And you know what a bounty is? It's somebody puts a price on your head and they will pay it if you are killed. And Donald Trump had talked at least 6 times to Vladimir Putin and never brought up the subject. Joe Biden would never do that.
Thank you.
Joe Biden would, but Joe Biden would hold Russia to account for any threat to our nation's security or to our troops who are sacrificing their lives for the sake of our democracy and our safety.
Thank you, Senator Harris. This is such an important issue, but we have other important issues as well. And
Susan,
I want to make sure we have a chance
I really have
to talk
to respond
about
to that.
I'm,
Look, she has
15 seconds because
Well, I gotta
we're
have
trying
more
to
than
keep.
that. Look.
Well, I'm sorry, Vice President
Look,
Pence, you've had more time than she's had so far.
The slanders against President Donald Trump regarding men and women of our armed forces are absurd.
I'm sorry, Vice
My
President
son
Pence.
is a captain in the United
Yes.
States Marine Corps. My son-in-law is deployed in the United States Navy. I can assure all of you, with sons and daughters serving in our military, President Donald Trump not only respects but reveres all of those who serve in our armed forces, and any suggestion otherwise is ridiculous.
Thank
me
you,
also
Vice President
say
Pence.
the
Vice
American
President
people
Pence,
deserve- Susan,
Vice
the
President
American
Pence,
people
I
deserve to
didn't,
know
Vice President
there's a
Pence, I did not,
pattern that you
excuse
can't
me,
deny.
Susan, the
I did
American
not
people
create
deserve
the
to know
rules for tonight.
Joe Biden
Your
and Trump-
campaigns agreed to the rules for tonight's debate with the Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm here to enforce them, which involves moving from one topic to another, giving roughly equal time to both of you,
Go right
which is what I'm trying very hard to do.
Go right ahead.
So I want to go ahead and move to the next topic, which is an important one, as the last topic was, and that is the Supreme Court. On Monday, the Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to open hearings on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. Senator Harris, you'll be there as a member of the committee. Yes. Her confirmation would cement the court's conservative majority and make it likely open to more abortion restrictions, even to overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling. Access to abortion would then be up to the states. Vice President Pence, you're the former governor of Indiana. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want Indiana to do? Would you want your home state to ban all abortions? You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Well, thank you for the question, but I'll use a little bit of my time to respond to that very important issue before. The American people deserve to know Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, was responsible for the death of hundreds of American service members. When the opportunity came, we saw him headed to Baghdad to kill more Americans. President Trump didn't hesitate, and Qasem Soleimani is gone. But you deserve to know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually criticized the decision to take out Qasem Soleimani. It's really inexplicable, but with regard to Joe Biden, it's explainable. Because history records that Joe Biden actually opposed the raid against Osama bin Laden. It's absolutely essential that we have a commander-in-chief who will not hesitate to act to protect American lives and to protect American service members, and that's what you have in President Donald Trump. Now, with regard to the Supreme Court of the United States, let me say President Trump and I could not be more enthusiastic about the opportunity to see Judge Amy Coney Barrett become Justice Amy Coney Barrett. And she's a brilliant woman, and she will bring a lifetime of experience and a sizable American family to the Supreme Court of the United States. And our hope is, in the hearing next week, unlike Justice Kavanaugh received with treatment from you and others, we hope she gets a fair hearing. And we particularly hope that we don't see the kind of attacks on her Christian faith that we saw before. I mean, the Democrat chairman of the Judiciary Committee before, when Judge Barrett was being confirmed for the Court of Appeals, expressed concern that the dogma of her faith lived loudly in her. Dick Durbin of Illinois said that it was a concern. Senator, I know one of our judicial nominees, you actually attacked because they were a member of the Catholic Knights of Columbus, just because the Knights of Columbus holds pro-life views and pro-marriage views.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
So
Your
my
time
hope
is
is
up.
that when the hearing takes place,
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
that Judge Amy Coney Barrett will be respected,
Thank you,
treated
Vice President
respectfully,
Pence.
voted and confirmed
Thank
to the
you.
Supreme Court of the United States.
Senator Harris, you're the senator from and former Attorney General of California. So let me ask you a parallel question to the one I posed to the Vice President. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want California to do? Would you want your home state to enact no restrictions on access to abortion? And you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. First of all, Joe Biden and I are both people of faith, and it's insulting to suggest that we would knock anyone for their faith. And in fact, Joe, if elected, will be only the second practicing Catholic as President of the United States. On the issue of this nomination, Joe and I are very clear, as are the majority of the American people. We are 27 days before the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And, you know, before, when this conversation has come up, you know, it's been about election year or election time. We're literally in an election. Over 4 million people have voted. People are in the process of voting right now. And so Joe has been very clear, as the American people are. Let the American people fill that seat in the White House, and then we'll fill that seat on the United States Supreme Court. And to your point, Susan, the issues before us couldn't be more serious. There's the issue of choice, and I will always fight for a woman's right to make a decision about her own body. It should be her decision and not that of Donald Trump and the Vice President, Michael Pence. But let's also look at what else is before the court. It's the Affordable Care Act. Like, literally in the midst of a public health pandemic, when over 210,000 people have died and 7 million people probably have what will be in the future considered a pre-existing condition because you contracted the virus. Donald Trump is in court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And I said it before, and it bears repeating. This means that there will be no more protections if they win for people with pre-existing conditions. No. This means that over 20 million people will lose your coverage. It means that if you're under the age of 26, you can't stay on your parents' coverage anymore. And here's the thing. The contrast couldn't be more clear. They're trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden is saying, let's expand coverage. Let's give you a choice of a public option or private coverage. Let's bring down premiums.
Thank you, Senator
Let's
Harris.
lower Medicare eligibility to 60.
Thank you, Senator
That's true
Harris.
leadership.
You know, you mentioned earlier, Vice President Pence, that the president was committed to maintaining protections for people with pre-existing conditions. But you do have this court case that you are supporting, your administration supporting, that would strike down the Affordable Care Act. The president says, President Trump says that he's going to protect people with pre-existing conditions, but he has not explained how he would do that. And that was one of the toughest nuts to crack when they were passing the Affordable Care Act. So tell us specifically, how would your administration protect Americans with pre-existing conditions to have access to affordable insurance if the Affordable Care Act is struck down?
Well, thank you, Susan. But let me just say, addressing your very first question, I couldn't be more proud to serve as vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. And this is another one of those cases where there's such a dramatic contrast. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth, late-term abortion. They want to increase funding to Planned Parenthood of America. Now, for our part, I would never presume how Judge Amy Coney Barrett would rule on the Supreme Court of the United States, but we'll continue to stand strong for the right to life. When you speak about the Supreme Court, though, I think the American people really deserve an answer, Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed? I mean, there have been 29 vacancies on the Supreme Court during presidential election years, from George Washington to Barack Obama. Presidents have nominated in all 29 cases. But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more. In 1864...
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
No, Mr. Vice President, I'm
Please,
speaking.
for a
I'm
chance.
speaking. Okay. In 1864, one of the, I think, political heroes, certainly of the president, I assume of you also, Mr. Vice President, is Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Lincoln was up for re-election, and it was 27 days before the election, and a seat became open on the United States Supreme Court. Abraham Lincoln's party was in charge not only of the White House, but the Senate. But Honest Abe said it's not the right thing to do. The American people deserve to make the decision about who will be the next president of the United States, and then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court of our land. And so Joe and I are very clear. The American people are voting right now, and it should be their decision about who will serve on this most important body for a lifetime.
Thank you,
And
Senator
the American
Harris.
people, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about packing.
You once
Come
again
on.
gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you
the
now.
American people deserve a straight answer. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election. Men and
Mr.
women,
Vice President,
I got to
I
tell you,
think
people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court, if you cherish the separation of powers, you need to reject the Biden-Harris ticket. Come November the 3rd, re-elect President Donald Trump, and we'll stand by that separation of powers in a 9-seat Supreme Court.
Yeah, let's talk about packing the court then. Let's talk about the
Please.
fact. Yeah, I'm about to. So the Trump-Pence administration has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned, and I've witnessed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal. People who are purely ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard. And do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's have that discussion.
All right, thank you, Senator. Let's go on and talk about the issue of racial justice.
I just want the record to reflect she never answered the question. So I think the American people,
Thank
maybe
you.
the next debate, Joe Biden will answer the question,
you,
but I think
thank
the
you.
American people know the answer.
Thank you, Vice President. In March, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old emergency room technician in Louisville, was shot and killed after police officers executing a search warrant in a narcotics investigation broke into her apartment. The police said they identified themselves. Taylor's boyfriend said he didn't hear them do that. He used a gun registered to him to fire a shot, which wounded an officer. The officers then fired more than 20 rounds into the apartment. They say they were acting in self-defense. None of them have been indicted in connection with her death. Senator Harris, in the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes.
I don't believe so. And I've talked with Breonna's mother, Tamika Palmer, and her family. And her family deserves justice. She was a beautiful young woman. She had as her life goal to become a nurse, and she wanted to become an EMT to first learn what's going on out on the street so she could then become a nurse and save lives. And her life was taken unjustifiably and tragically and violently. And it brings me to, you know, the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that America witnessed, during which an American man was tortured and killed under the knee of an armed, uniformed police officer. And people around our country of every race, of every age, of every gender, perfect strangers to each other, marched shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, fighting for us to finally achieve that ideal of equal justice under law. And I was a part of those peaceful protests. And I believe strongly that, first of all, we are never going to condone violence, but we always must fight for the values that we hold dear, including the fight to achieve our ideals. And that's why Joe Biden and I have said on this subject, look, and I'm a former career prosecutor. I know what I'm talking about. Bad cops are bad for good cops. We need reform of our policing in America and our criminal justice system, which is why Joe and I will immediately ban chokeholds and carotid holds. George Floyd would be alive today if we did that. We will require a national registry for police officers who break the law. We will, on the issue of criminal justice reform, get rid of private prisons and cash bail, and we will decriminalize marijuana, and we will expunge the records of those who have been convicted of marijuana. This is a time for leadership on a tragic, tragic issue of unarmed Black people in America who have been killed.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me pose the same question to you. In the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, our heart breaks for the loss of any innocent American life. And the family of Breonna Taylor has our sympathies. But I trust our justice system, a grand jury that refused the evidence. And it really is remarkable that as a former prosecutor, you would assume that an impaneled grand jury looking at all the evidence got it wrong. But you're entitled to your opinion, Senator. I think, look, and with regard to George Floyd, there's no excuse for what happened to George Floyd. And justice will be served. But there's also no excuse for the rioting and looting that followed. I mean, it really is astonishing. Flora Westbrook is with us here tonight in Salt Lake City. Just a few weeks ago, I stood at what used to be her salon. It was burned to the ground by rioters and looters. And Flora is still trying to put her life back together. And I must tell you, this presumption that you hear consistently from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that America is systemically racist, and that, as Joe Biden said, that he believes that law enforcement has an implicit bias against minorities, is a great insult to the men and women who serve in law enforcement. And I want everyone to know who puts on the uniform of law enforcement every day that President Trump and I stand with you. And it is remarkable that when Senator Tim Scott tried to pass a police reform bill, brought together a group of Republicans and Democrats, Senator Harris, you got up and walked out of the room. And then you filibustered Senator Tim Scott's bill on the Senate floor that would have provided new accountability, new resources. Look, we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement, improving public safety, and supporting our African American neighbors and all of our minorities. Under President Trump's leadership, we'll always stand with law enforcement, and we'll do what we've done from day one, and that is improve the lives of African Americans.
Thank you, Vice President
Record unemployment, record investments in education, and we'll fight for school choice for all of our minorities.
Thank you, Vice President.
I'd like to respond.
Senator Harris.
I will not sit here and be lectured by the Vice President on what it means to enforce the laws of our country. I am the only one on this stage who was personally prosecuted, everything from child sexual assault to homicide. I'm the only one on this stage who has prosecuted the big banks for taking advantage of America's homeowners. I'm the only one on this stage who prosecuted for-profit colleges for taking advantage of our veterans. And the reality of this is that we are talking about an election in 27 days, where last week the President of the United States took a debate stage in front of 70 million Americans and refused to condemn white supremacists.
Not true.
And
Not true.
it wasn't like he didn't have a chance. He didn't do it, and then he doubled down. And then he said, when pressed, stand back, stand by. And this is a part of a pattern of Donald Trump's. He called Mexicans rapists and criminals. He instituted as his first act a Muslim ban. On the issue of Charlottesville, where people were peacefully protesting the need for racial justice, where a young woman was killed, and on the other side there were neo-Nazis carrying tiki torches, shouting racial epithets, anti-Semitic slurs. And Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides. This is who we have as the President of the United States. And America, you deserve better. Joe Biden will be a president who brings our country together.
Senator Harris,
and recognizes the beauty in our diversity and the fact that we
Senator
all
Harris,
have
thank
so
you.
much more in common than what separates us.
Vice President Pence, let me give you a minute to respond.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that very much. You know, I think this is one of the things that makes people dislike the media so much in this country, Susan, is that you selectively edit, just like Senator Harris did, comments that President Trump and I and others on our side of the aisle make. I mean, Senator Harris conveniently omitted, after the president made comments about people on either side of the debate over monuments, he condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly. You're concerned that he doesn't condemn neo-Nazis. President Trump has Jewish grandchildren. His daughter and son-in-law are Jewish. This is a president who respects and cherishes all of the American people. But you talk about having personally prosecuted. I'm glad you brought up your record, Senator.
Thank you.
But I really need to make this point. When you were DA in San Francisco, when you left office, African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for minor drug offenses than whites and Hispanics. When you were Attorney General of California, you increased the disproportionate incarceration of blacks in California. You did nothing on criminal justice reform in California. You didn't lift a finger to pass the First Step Act on Capitol Hill. I mean, the reality is your record speaks for itself. President Trump and I have fought for criminal justice reform.
Thank you, Vice President
We've fought
Pence.
for educational choice and opportunities for African Americans, all of our members.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll do it for 4 more
Thank you.
years.
You know, there is no more important issue than the final issue that we're going to talk about tonight, and that is the issue of the election itself.
Susan, he attacked my record. I would like an opportunity to respond.
Let me give you 30 seconds because we're running out of time.
I appreciate that. First of all, having served as the Attorney General of the state of California, the work that I did is a model of what our nation needs to do, and we will be able to do under a Joe Biden presidency. Our agenda includes what this administration has failed to do. It will be about not only instituting a ban on chokeholds and carotid holes.
Thank you.
Not only.
Thank you, Senator
I
Harris.
would like to go through.
These are points that you made earlier in the hour, and I want to talk about the election itself before we have to.
But I want to talk about the connection between what Joe and I will do and my record, which includes I was the first statewide officer to institute a requirement that my agents would wear body cameras and keep them on full time. We were the first to initiate a requirement that there would be a training for law enforcement on implicit bias because, yes, Joe Biden and I recognize that implicit bias does exist, Mr. Vice President, contrary to what you may believe. We did the work of instituting reforms that were about investing in reentry. This is the work that we have done and the work we will do going forward. And again, I will not be lectured by the Vice President on our record of what we have done in terms of law enforcement and keeping our communities safe, and a commitment to reforming the criminal justice system of America.
Thank you, Senator Harris. And I'd like to I'd like you to respond first to the question on our final topic, the election itself. President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If your ticket wins and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what steps would you and Vice President Biden then take? What would happen next? You have 2 minutes.
So I'll tell you, Joe and I are, I think, particularly proud of the coalition that we've built around our campaign. We probably have one of the broadest coalitions of folks that you've ever seen in a presidential race. Of course, we have the support of Democrats, but also independents and Republicans. In fact, 7 members of President George W. Bush's cabinet are supporting our ticket. We have the support of Colin Powell, Cindy McCain, John Kasich, over 500 generals, retired generals, and former national security experts and advisors are supporting our campaign. And I believe they are doing that because they know that Joe Biden has a deep, deep-seated commitment to fight for our democracy and to fight for the integrity of our democracy and to bring integrity back to the White House. And so we believe in the American people. We believe in our democracy. And here's what I'd like to say to everybody. Vote. Please vote. Vote early. Come up with a plan to vote. Go to iwillvote.com. You can also go to joebiden.com. We have it within our power in these next 27 days to make the decision about what will be the course of our country for the next 4 years. And it is within our power, and if we use our vote and we use our voice, we will win. And we will not let anyone subvert our democracy with what Donald Trump has been doing, as he did on the debate stage last week, when again in front of 70 million people, he openly attempted to suppress the vote. Joe Biden, on the other hand, on that same debate stage, because clearly Donald Trump doesn't think he can run on a record because it's a failed record, Joe Biden on that stage said, hey, just please vote. So I'll repeat what Joe said. Please vote.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Pence, President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If Vice President Biden is declared the winner and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your role and responsibility as Vice President? What would you personally do? You have 2 minutes.
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election. Because while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris rattle off a long litany of the establishment in Washington, D.C., an establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for 47 years, President Donald Trump has launched a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. And I have every confidence that those same Americans that delivered that historic victory in 2016, they see this president's record where we rebuild our military, we revived our economy through tax cuts and rolling back regulation, fighting for fair trade, unleashing American energy. We appointed conservatives to our federal courts at every level. And we stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. And I think that movement of Americans has only grown stronger in the last 4 years. But when you talk about accepting the outcome of the election, I must tell you, Senator, your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying to overturn the results of the last election. It's amazing. When Joe Biden was Vice President of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and my campaign. I mean, there were documents released this week that the CIA actually made a referral to the FBI documenting that those allegations were coming from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And of course, we've all seen the avalanche, what you put the country through for the better part of 3 years until it was found that there was no obstruction, no collusion, case closed. And then, Senator Harris, you and your colleagues in the Congress tried to impeach the President of the United States over a phone call. And now Hillary Clinton has actually said to Joe Biden that in her words, under no circumstances should he concede the election. So let me just say, I think we're going to win this election. President Trump and I are fighting every day in courthouses to prevent Joe Biden and Kamala Harris from changing the rules and creating this universal mail-in voting that'll create a massive opportunity for voter fraud. And we have a free and fair election. We know we're going to have confidence in it. And I believe in all my heart that President Donald Trump's going to be reelected for 4 more years.
You know, I've written all the questions that I've asked tonight, but for the final question of the debate, I'd like to read a question that someone else wrote. The Utah Debate Commission asked students in the state to write essays about what they would like to ask you. And I want to close tonight's debate with the question posed by Brecklin Brown. She's an 8th grader at Springville Junior High in Springville, Utah. And here's what she wrote, quote, "When I watch the news, all I see is arguing between Democrats and Republicans. When I watch the news, all I see is citizen fighting against citizen. When I watch the news, all I see are 2 candidates from opposing parties trying to tear each other down. If our leaders can't get along, how are the citizens supposed to get along?" And then she added, "Your examples could make all the difference to bring us together," end quote. So to each of you in turn, I'd like you to take 1 minute and respond to Brecklin. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute.
Brecklin, it's a wonderful question. And let me just commend you for taking an interest in public life. I started following the news when I was very young. And in America, we believe in a free and open exchange of debate. And we celebrate that. And it's how we've created literally the freest and most prosperous nation in the history of the world. But I would tell you that don't assume that what you're seeing on your local news networks is synonymous with the American people. You know, I look at the relationship between Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late justice who we just lost from the Supreme Court, and the late Justice Antonin Scalia. They were on polar opposites on the Supreme Court of the United States, one very liberal, one very conservative. But what's been learned since her passing was the 2 of them and their families were the very closest of friends. I mean, here in America, we can disagree. We can debate vigorously, as Senator Harris and I have on this stage tonight. But when the debate is over, we come together as Americans. And that's what people do in big cities and small towns all across this country. So I just want to encourage you, Brecklin. I want to tell you that we're going to work every day to have government as good as our people. And the American people each and every day love a good debate. We love a good argument. But we always come together and are always there for one another.
Thank you,
in
Vice
times of
President.
need. And we've especially learned that
Thank you,
through
Mr.
the
Vice President.
difficulties of this year.
Senator Harris, what would you say to Brecklin?
First of all, I love hearing from our young leaders. And when I hear her words, when I hear your words, Brecklin, I know our future is bright because it is that perspective on who we are and who we should be that is a sign of leadership and is something we should all aspire to be. And that, you know, that brings me to Joe. Joe Biden, one of the reasons that Joe decided to run for president is after Charlottesville, which we talked about earlier. It so troubled him and upset him like it did all of us, that there was that kind of hate and division. What propelled Joe to run for president was to see that over the course of the last 4 years, what Brecklin described has been happening. Joe has a long-standing reputation of working across the aisle and working in a bipartisan way. And that's what he's going to do as president. Joe Biden has a history of lifting people up and fighting for their dignity. I mean, you have to know Joe's story to know that Joe has known pain, he has known suffering, and he has known love. And so, Brecklin, when you think about the future, I do believe the future is bright. And it will be because of your leadership, and it will be because we fight for each person's voice through their vote, and we get engaged in this election because you have the ability through your work and through eventually your vote
Thank you,
to
Senator
determine
Harris.
the future of our country and what its leadership looks like.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Thank you, Vice President Pence. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We want to thank also the University of Utah for its hospitality, and most of all, our thanks to all the Americans who watched this debate tonight. Again, our best wishes for a quick recovery to President Trump, the First Lady, and everyone who is battling COVID-19. The second presidential debate is next week on October 15th, a town hall style debate in Miami. We hope you'll join us then. Good evening.
Wow.
Can you hear me?
I can. I
Can
can
you
hear you.
bring the video back up and have us at the bottom of the screen?
I can
Just
absolutely
until
do
they
that.
do the. Just until. Oh, I see you changed the font there. I like the font change, Daniel.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
Changes.
I,
Changes.
she knows she did good. I don't
Oh,
even know how
I
she
know.
feel it, but she knows. They ain't got no mask on. His wife ain't got a mask on. Like, I understand why Kamala don't have a mask on, but like
Yeah.
his his wife ain't even got a mask on, and everybody at the debate is required to wear a mask. Like, that'd be hilarious to me. Like, still, y'all, just not taking it serious. But
They're
we're
done. They're done.
they're done. We're good.
Bring it back.
Bring it on back to
Let's
the
bring
right,
it
to
back.
the right.
We're back.
Bring it on back, bruh.
Well,
Let me
I'll
tell
tell you
you
what,
something.
that was a lot different than the other
That was a
debate.
lot different. We're waiting on Mr.
Yep.
Bulls. Because you always get me together for saying his name wrong, but
Oh,
oh, it's just Waltra.
so is mine.
With some ice. Man,
Well, thoughts?
happy.
I'm pretty impressed. I,
Like,
I didn't have a lot of data on Harris. I really didn't. I didn't know much about her, but that was a performance. I enjoyed that thoroughly.
I, I, I think I enjoyed it more so because he's in. You got to let him in. He's
All right,
in.
all right, here we go. Here going to the
He said, "I'm in."
three. Bing.
Ah, my friend.
How you doing?
Hello, sir.
Good. How you doing?
Just
Well,
reveling
we
in the fact that that wasn't a
these
complete
old these
train wreck.
old these old dams is feeling kind of good up in the house.
I was happy with it. I was happy with it.
Lord, thank you. I was just happy, like that. First of all, everybody welcome Jeff Bulls to the show, ally of Black News Tonight. We're so excited to have you again. It's been a while, my friend. It's been a while. I think it's been season 1. So
All right.
welcome to the platform. Hey,
I love it.
we're here.
Looking
And we're
good.
I love it.
good. Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Obviously, we're painted pink for breast cancer awareness. Again, you guys can donate to Cancer Services of Midland. Cancer Services is a huge organization, but the reason why I've been referring everybody to donate to Cancer Services of Midland is because of the fact my friend Stacy is now going through breast cancer, and that's the place that she wants a shout out. So a couple of weeks later, we'll have some more places that you can donate money to. So early detection, that's important.
It's key.
But speaking of cancer and pre-existing conditions, I think it's worth it to talk about
Seems right.
both responses on pre-existing conditions and like, I mean, now they've
I mean,
been
those words were said a lot. They said those words quite a few times.
existing
Quite a bit.
conditions. So I think Well, I mean,
Well, one side said that they are going to do away with pre-existing conditions and the protections they're in, but the other side claims that they will keep them on and everything is going to be a-okay. So who do we believe?
while appealing ACA, just
Yep,
make
it's
sure
because
yeah.
somehow they're gonna.
No plan,
They're
no
gonna,
health
gonna save
care.
that piece. They're gonna save that
We're
piece.
just
Oh sure.
we're getting rid of insurance, but we're gonna
You got to
save
play for the. You got to
pre-existing
pay for the
conditions.
pro plan. We got to pay for USA Pro in order to get the full plan. Like we can't see until we update our subscription. That's what it is.
Gonna bulldoze the whole house, but we're gonna save the sidewalk.
That's right. It's a beautiful sidewalk.
The she shed.
That's for sure. The she said.
One of them. Not everything, but just pre-existing conditions. So my question is like, so where do these people that are still covered for pre-existing conditions but have no health coverage get medical care?
It's a great question, Charles.
I'm
That
just
he never
saying.
answered.
Just
I didn't hear an answer to
Bazinga!
that.
we, need
Yeah.
we need Senator Harris.
She's firing on all cylinders, wasn't she?
No, she said that's fine. I'm Kamala. So
Yep.
hey Kamala, how you doing? Hey Auntie,
Yep.
because she was acting like Auntie tonight. I will not be lectured by the vice president
Nope.
on criminal justice, on law, on my job.
She doesn't have none of
trying to
that.
get rid of private prisons.
Yeah, I liked that. That was nice.
Definitely.
I gotta post
Prison
that
for
now.
profit was a big topic when I was in school. It was split. Like I was among the minority that were actually against it. All the people that were going to criminal justice were flooded with the idea that it's great for the economy, it creates jobs. It's like, no, dude. We don't need to imprison the
Yeah, they
entire
always
populace.
right. And they forget the other side of that coin.
Yeah,
You
it
have to
creates a lot of jobs. Wait a minute. So you're securing the fact that there's definitely going to be prisoners no matter what.
right.
So when you secure that, you have to make sure there's prisoners no matter what. It's a never going cycle. We know this. I mean, I don't know if anybody's got a chance to see the 13th Amendment, but like, whoo, mind blown. Like all of this secured work, all of these secured jobs are all based on filling prisons. That's why people tout the words like defund the police. It's a reoccurring cycle. And that's why like me as a black man, I'm like, I don't want to like be caught up at the wrong time, the wrong place. I'm sorry, 97% of Americans plea.
Because they're told if they don't,
That's
they're going to go to jail for.
If they don't,
Yeah.
if you have the audacity to express your American right, we're going to give you a
To
minimum
demand a fair
sentence if you
trial.
lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
To demand a fair
Of
trial.
all
We're going to
things.
give you a minimum sentence if you lose, and you could possibly get the maximum if you lose. So right there, that's too broken because you take you put a law on a judge and you don't let him govern base by base. You don't. And I understand in some aspects that you need that because we got racist judges too. But you can see that there was a case that was floating around recently, like that the same crimes, same history, same judge. One had like 29 years, one had like 2 years. And it was just proven fact, right to the point, there's no systemic racism in this country.
There's no implicit bias.
There's no implicit bias. That's a presumption. That's from Joe Biden and his team. No, bro. That's from Black America. That's from Mexican America. Like, that's not from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We're experiencing implicit bias on a day-to-day basis, sir. And we only talking about, like, police officers beating us half to death or killing us or shooting us in the back 7 times or stabbing us or hitting us in the sally port or tasing us 6 times. We're not even talking about the day-to-day implicit bias on jobs when black people are being terminated. We're not talking about the day-to-day implicit bias at restaurants when black people are presumed not to tip and they are served terribly. We're not talking about the implicit bias on not being able to go in the same restaurant for the last, what other implicit, or that we're still doing first, that Kamala Harris is the second black senator. We're not talking about those implicit biases. We're just talking about implicit biases where people lose their lives. So help me. Tell me
Oh, I mean,
how the
you know,
president.
he was on message, man. I mean, you know, that's what Trump does, and that's, you know, Trump does it in a weird way, in a belligerent way. But, you know, he was more succinct and more professional about it. But, you know, it's all about messaging, man. It's all about message. And he was hammering. He was speaking to, you know,
His
who
base.
will vote for them. Yeah, their base. Yeah, I mean, you know, you got to give his, you got to throw some meat. You got to throw some meat to him, man. Like, you know, you got to feed the
We're not
fish.
going to let them
You got to
take
feed
over
the
your
fish.
suburbs.
Right.
You got to feed the fish, man.
They're coming to
But
your
I
suburbs.
did
Like,
like, I mean, you know, policy notwithstanding. I mean, I've been on record with disagreeing with their platform as far as Biden and Kamala is concerned, but just on the strength of this debate, I thought she knocked it out of the park. I thought she was able to, you know,
Carmela, you
distinguish
did good, bro.
between. Yeah, she did really well. I mean, and you know,
I'm just
you know,
telling the people
only
you
thing she
did
didn't
good
do
for
is put
Bulls and
that finger
Saints.
up there, but
Right.
she was auntie. She had her auntie thing going, them faces, and you know that head got cocked to the side a little bit, and you know, she was in her bag. I can say that.
Yeah. I enjoyed plenty of parts from her. Like I said at the beginning, I didn't really have an opinion of her going into this, but I got to tell you, it didn't take 2 minutes for me to be like, oh, all right, that was it. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Um, it, especially when you contrast it to the other debate,
Right.
like that was just like a train wreck, like just a bunch of rambling and interrupting, and
It was
so
horrible, man.
this was just like normal, like
Yeah.
it's
Th-
really
that's this is
normal,
what
like
exactly. Exactly. What I
um,
expect from a first world country's debate,
right,
Um,
not a train wreck.
for the most part they answered the questions, they for the most part,
Right.
you had a
Right.
couple hiccups, but
Pence sort of like
it
She didn't
yapping
wasn't.
and
answer that.
rambling.
She ain't answer that pad in the court question though.
Neither did he.
I get,
Neither did he.
and neither.
Oh,
Well, neat.
that's
Biden didn't
that's why I
answer
said
either.
the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Like she was like she answered all around. She danced all around it. Like,
Well,
are they padding the court,
well,
whatever.
yes,
But
Right.
because
like,
okay. So
I
look,
did.
it looks to me like the Republicans don't care about if they paint themselves into a corner because they'll walk right out and have paint on their shoes. They don't care at all. Because Mitch McConnell said this stuff about last year or the last election about how we can't have Supreme Court justice with there's an election year, and then now he's like, I can't imagine that, and then now he's like, let's get it going, right now, it's good, we're good, let's go,
No,
because he don't care,
because
he don't care at all. But the
no people
Democrats are
no
like, oh,
people keep
I don't want to say, I don't want to misspeak.
Right. Right.
I think people keep missing the point. This is like, allow me to bring my faith into this. This is a spiritual wickedness situation. So, and a lot of people are gonna get mad at me. This is bigger than just a Supreme Court justice. This is their first opportunity to rule in three different places. That means the executive branch, the legislators, y'all know that word, the legislation branch, um, and um, and the court. Like if you rule in the Supreme Court, that's when you can run through a whole bunch. Like, and you rule in judges. Like you got to remember, they're doing their job as far as being conservative. They're doing their job of replacing judges with conservative judges. They've replaced federal judges that can put checks and balances in for a party. say it like I'm gonna say it like I want to say it. We are the closest we've ever been to a dictatorship. See, when you start moving courts and checks and balances around, and a president is doing that by himself, when William Barr, the top cop of the country, is literally making sure that the president cannot be checked or balanced, that should scare you.
Yep.
Now, I'm a man of faith, so I
A
have
lot
my
of that work has
opinions
been
on
done.
important. It's done.
A
It's
lot of that
done.
work
Like,
has already been done, to be honest. We're already past that point. I mean, they've done that
yeah,
work. I mean, they filled those appellate courts and those lower courts with, and she touched on that. She was like, "Hey, I'm on the
mhm.
committee. I watched them do it." She's like, they put in, judges in those lower courts that weren't even giving a good review. They were poor, but they were ideologues. So they're conservative. Get them in there. Get them in there. We don't care about their grade. Get them in there. They're conservative. They'll vote against this, this, and this. Get them in
That's
there.
all that matters.
But that's our country though. It's all about who you know. It's the same game that we play when the qualified person can apply for a job and not get an answer back from the company. Period. But if they happen to know one person that can get an ear into that hiring manager and be like, "Hey, cuz, can you give me that job real quick?" 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, sometimes 3 days. Hey, I know you know Bob, and Bob said that you're a good candidate for this. I wish the person on the other side of the phone, "Hey, Barbara, this is Shirley. I've been calling you for 3 weeks for this job. And now you're calling me because I know Bob, your uneducated, less desirable hire. I know Bob. Like, I called Bob on purpose because I wanted to see if it was a Bob situation. And you bobbed and weaved right on the phone. Like, this is happening. This Proud Boys Club, this good old boys club, has been happening for longer than just this election. So dog whistle politics it ain't even dog whistle. Uh, these jokers don't even
Yeah, they've been doing it
they're
for a while. I mean, this goes back to the civil rights movement. I mean, this is the shift in strategy, so to speak. I mean, when you think about the things like the Voting Rights Act, different legislation that came about that had to hit the courts to be approved, that was the shift. People that were against that type of movement, any type of you know equal rights. That was the shift in just strategy. Like, hey, we gotta take the courts, and that's when it started, like late '60s, when they really started to focus on the courts because they knew, hey, whether we're in power or not, when we do get power, we shift the courts. They get lifetime appointment. We don't have to be in power to shift policy.
Right.
I mean, there are a lot. I know a lot of conservatives, man, and they're giddy with, just even the idea of shifting that number to where the conservative movement actually has the upper hand in the courts. That's the only reason they held their nose for him in the first place. They were always looking at the courts. They're like, yeah, he's a racist, but man, the courts. Yeah, he's an idiot, but the courts. If he gets elected, we'll get these judges in. That's It was like a laser focus on the courts. They're like, we don't care about. Yeah, he was grabbing them by the pee. We don't. Courts, courts, courts. It was like they were in concert. Court.
smart. It's a strategy that is
Yeah, I mean
what
these are
could
lifetime
be
appointments. It's not like
detrimental
another president
to
can come in.
no.
Forever.
Another president can't come in and take them out. Like these are lifetime appointments. Like
Why are
they
the
stay there until they
courts
die.
and judges? Why are the courts and
We
judges
should be
not being
changing that.
elected? We should
Exactly.
we should be electing the
We should be
judges.
changing
We
that.
should not have any judge having a lifetime appointment.
Especially
That's a
somebody that's
life
48.
until
What is
they
she?
die.
Amy's 48, right?
Yep.
Some crazy
Oh,
like the young. You can't come. Are you
Yeah.
serious?
You got 20, 30, 40 years possibly.
Mm.
You know, it's not like it's physically taxing. I mean, you can.
Can you at least have lived through some time? Like, maybe that's a long time. We need a new law on that.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got to put a
Uh,
number on that. Even if you put 10 years on it or something.
10 sounds pretty good to
this is
me.
so funny,
That
y'all.
still sounds like
I
a
gotta
sweet
address
job.
this really.
What?
Yeah,
I gotta address this really quick because okay. So, do y'all remember when we did the first? Was it the RNC? Like
yeah.
we did the R. I think I did the R. Did we do the RNC with you and Green? The first RN was it the
I think so.
RNC or the no? We did the
It was RNC.
DNC together,
Yeah.
and then the RNC.
Was it
I
the
think we
No,
did
RNC
we
one
versus
couldn't.
night
Jimmy?
and we couldn't take it. I
We couldn't take.
think you did
Oh,
one night
we
and just
did
couldn't
one
take it.
night, and I canceled it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, remember I had put a post on my Facebook page that said, "Hey, are there any Republican commentators that are willing to come up and speak on behalf of the Republican Party?" Well, here's one of the people that always see this is why I want to get people on camera to do this because cameras don't lie. Comments lie. Comments can be deleted. Comments can be removed, but you can't remove your audio. You can't remove your face from a video that I own. So, and if you want to talk to me and you want me to argue and combat with you about some bull crap, you need to do it on camera. And that's just the rule of thumb. So don't hit me up under my comment section asking me to argue with you because I'm not arguing anymore. This is literally simply on morality. And if you allow somebody to sit up and say that there's no implicit bias in this country, there's no systemic racism in this country, and you're white, I'm sorry. That's a problem. And
Yeah.
that's an issue. And that's an issue that doesn't bother you and it doesn't affect you. So the Green New Deal and saying that Biden did not say about repealing tax breaks for all when Biden truly said that. So all of our taxes get raised. Also, Biden flip flopped on tracking to none at all to allowing some when he was in what? I'm reading verbatim. When he was in Penn, which does a lot of fracking, those lies
Pennsylvania.
there. Also, she's only editing Trump's remarks on racism, saying part of the quote on racism. She lied about the Green New Deal when they are beholden to the left. Hold on. Here's the facts. This is, and I'm gonna let y'all know what this comment is to. I said, "What's your point?" Because there was a moment where they asked Vice President Pence a specific question, and he was rebuttaling Kamala, and I was like looking at him, and he wasn't saying nothing but blah 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 blah. And I was like, "What's your point?" Now, she says that he's busy discounting all the dim lies. That is
Yeah.
the point. No, this is the point. It don't matter if it's facts or not for this party. They believe in whatever they're the party that says you need to think for yourself. Get out and vote. You're like, all right, I'm voting Democrat. No, you need to think for yourself. Vote Republican. Okay, well, I'm voting independent then. Like, because because
Your options are
y'all keep
scary.
saying we need to think for ourselves, but nobody but
Then if you
doctors
don't
and
choose what they
scientists said
choose,
Then you're
you're
fake
not thinking
news
for
and you're a
yourself.
conspiracy.
Like, it's. I mean, come on. It's like. Just Lord Jeff, I hope you don't stay in the suburbs because I think you're coming for him. Because
I
that's
lived
all it
out there.
is.
I ran, I ran from them. They don't have to worry about me.
Because it's just like going to a.
You still
I
get.
had more trouble out there than I did over here. I haven't had any trouble in the city. Out there,
Listen,
I had my storage broken into. I had my car vandalized right next to
mm,
Heritage High School.
Yeah, there was armed robberies a lot back on Mackinac.
Why
I
the
heard about that, and you know what the first comment was? Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening on the township side.
You can't believe they walked
a
two
lot of
blocks.
stuff happens out there.
You can't believe they decided to walk 2 blocks.
It's
What?
it's just the point of like making sure that the city knows that the township is safe.
Ugh.
That's why the police, we are Saginaw. Like we gotta get over that. Like we gotta get over that bridge separating the city. We gotta get over only doing stuff to beautify this side of the town and letting all the the blight in the dead city, like the dead. We gotta get over that. Like if you ain't talking about how we, I'm not gonna steal nobody's stuff, but how we reimagine Saginaw, then like people get so caught up
I,
on this.
that's
Go ahead. I'm
yeah.
sorry. I'm fired up tonight.
No, I was just gonna say it's a lot of talk and rhetoric, but no real substance. The people that talk about reimagining Saginaw, to borrow that phrase, they get to the center of town, Genesee and Genesee and Washington, center of town, center of downtown, and they turn left and go over the bridge. If we're gonna redo Saginaw, let's turn right and actually go down Genesee, down to James Street, and down to Birch Street, and down go that way. Saginaw, that Saginaw. If
But
you
but
drive through that corridor, that hasn't been touched in 30, 40 years. The same buildings are still there. The same VIP Sports is still there. The same, none of that stuff has changed. You can't say you're going to change the city. I don't mean to go on a tangent, but you can't say you're going to change the city when you don't go in the city.
y'all hear that, brother? That's real. I got my Kamala finger up. That's because she ain't do it tonight. I'm gonna do it for her and put it in the camera. That's some real stuff. You can't. Bulls like,
So,
man. Uh, it,
and
this
actually
election is
do it.
so important. And
Busy stuff.
okay,
Putting the Michigan Works
this
downtown ain't reimagining Saginaw.
no, it's actually implicit bias because what it really says is, well, we know y'all on this side of town gonna need this, so go ahead and get it. Am I lying? Just look at it. The police station's downtown. The Saginaw Police Department's downtown. DHS is downtown. Michigan Works is downtown.
And 98% of them people leave town and take their tax money and their money with them. It doesn't enrich this town. So if you're going to reimagine Saginaw, then employ the people that live actually in 48601 so that the actual tax money stays here and circulate. That's kind of how
Mm.
reinvigorate a town or a city,
Yeah.
by making sure that the money that's made here is spent here and not taken to and not funding suburbs.
Because they don't want to send them. The
Bingo.
ideal that the
I
ideal that
support the freedom to move wherever you want to live, but when you do that,
police out
then
there.
you're yeah, do do what you do. One thing I'm about 48601. I don't speak for Frankenmuth. I don't speak for Freeland. I don't speak for none of those folks. They're free to, when I talk about police brutality, I talk about 48601. And I told Ken Horn this myself, and yep, I'm calling him out. I don't talk about Frankenmuth policing. I talk about Saginaw policing. You don't live here, so you don't have any dog in the fight. So shut up.
Simple.
Well,
If I start speaking on Frankenmuth
uh,
policing, you have the same right to tell me to shut up. I don't live out there. I don't pay taxes out there.
It's fair.
well,
Mind the business that pays you.
hey, I, ain't nothing to be said on that. I mean,
Yeah, I
we don't
mean,
even talk
you
about
know,
we ain't even talk about Saginaw policing anymore because that's not, it's not the time. It's an election.
we
It's not
we
the time
we
to talk
allow
about
it
that.
to get hijacked. We allow it to get hijacked, and it's made into a national conversation. No, policing is local. You talk about
Thank
your
you.
local municipality. I can't talk about Freeland police. If Freeland citizens are okay with their police department, they have every right to fund them. But I live in Saginaw. and I pay taxes in Saginaw.
Mm.
And in my opinion, Saginaw police is substandard. So I have a right to say, you know what, I don't want my tax money to go to them because they suck. And they pick on my community exclusively. That's my right as a taxpayer,
Oh, oh my
You
goodness.
still there?
Yep,
That's
he's
your
still
right
there.
as a taxpayer. We
as a
got audio
taxpayer
from
and a
people.
citizen.
Yep, he's good.
Yep, I'm still here.
You got broke up a little bit, so I wanted to make sure you got an opportunity to finish that. But
Okay.
you're right as a taxpayer and a citizen. But we ain't. I mean, we ain't even talking about policing now. If you, it's either you. I want to say this right, but the problem is like you said, policing is not national; it's citywide. But you can't support. It's kind of like if you don't support Trump, you don't support police, right? Or if you support Biden, you you hate police, and it's like,
It's
no. How
extremes.
about
They they create
I don't care
yeah,
what
they
president
create
it
extremes
is.
for a reason, man. It's they do that on purpose. You know, it's a more nuanced, but they don't want nuance. It's extremes. Like
Mm.
you support police, and support the blue, or not. You know what I mean? Like it's extremes because if you get into nuance and you'd actually, you know, you'd actually get somewhere. Like there's we can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can say, hey, man, I support the idea of actually having law and order. What I don't support is a knee on my neck.
I don't think
Pretty simple to
I'm
me.
not. I don't support a knee on my neck, and I don't support a party that says that there is no systemic racism, and that
That's madness.
if I can't get President Trump to say he denounced white supremacy, and then Vice President Pence comes on and like literally says,
He did that multiple
I don't
times.
see color. There's no white supremacy. There is a presumption that there is. So here we go again with not being
with
heard.
a with a
Like
fly on his head. That
Yeah,
was horrible.
it
I'm
was
like,
like
is
I
that
was
God was
making
saying,
jokes.
don't
I'm
mess with him.
sleepy?
He
I'm thinking
like
I'm sleepy. Like I can't. Is that
I
a
was I
flag?
was
Like
I was making some jokes to that. That was good. I
we
enjoyed that a
need
little bit too
we need to
much.
make some memes off of that.
I
somebody
said he
said,
was so
President
full of shit that
Aaron,
he's gathering flies because he was.
hey Danger, I'm about to give you some dish liquid, bro. I just heard a S
No,
bomb.
listen. Look, PG-13. You even get one F-bomb. I'm just saying. Those are the rules.
We don't. We, I know, but you know how I feel about swearing. Come on now, y'all know in the
Full
business
of
meeting,
excrement.
huh?
You
He's
could
full of
What
defend
you
me
say,
just like they defend
people?
Trump. You could defend me just like they. I'm just passionate. I'm just passionate.
He just say what he want to say.
He says what he means. It's not his fault. He just
Stand
means a bunch of
down
racist
and
garbage.
stand by.
Good
Stand
lord.
down and stand
we
by, Proud Boys. Hey, did y'all see the videos of the Proud Boys? Like they're coming up out of the woodwork. Like, am I saying the name right? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is it Proud
Proud Boys.
Boys or Good? I
Proud.
remember it
Proud
as
Boys.
Good Old Boys,
No,
but not Proud Boys. But
it's
I'm
funny
just
because the reason that I know that it's Proud Boys is because they were flooding the hashtag on Twitter with a bunch of homosexual men, and
yeah.
they flooded the entire Twitter hashtag with these guys just making out, and oh my lord, I bet they were so mad.
They
I
were
bet they were
pissed. They were pissed.
mad. I was laughing. I was crying.
they
Oh,
they
that's
took over their
genius.
hashtag, man. It was funny.
That's
It was funny,
genius.
man.
that is, you know what?
What they gonna do? Change their
That's what they
hashtag? They
know how to
You
do.
can't. That's your name. You got a DBA.
Proud Boys. They was like, nope, we're still in that, just like the rainbow.
Yep, it's gone. Nope.
No, but I do like that about that community. the community they mobilize very well. They'd be like, "We don't
Oh
like it."
yeah. Yep. Yep. Oh yeah. What about that? It's amazing. Great people. Love them.
Man.
Stand down and stand by. Like, what was that, Chuck and Larry, when they all in the bathroom singing God, what's that song? Big old, what's his name? He played Baby Boy too. He was the daddy in Baby Boy. Or not the
Bing
daddy, the
Rames.
stepdaddy. Yeah, you want some
Bing Rames.
yes, Vin Rames, you want some you want some breakfast? Yeah. I'm gotta have a life too. But in Chuck and Larry, they was in the bathroom singing, I think they were saying, oh, they were singing I'm Every Woman.
Yep.
And it was
Yeah.
like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hashtag Cowboys. But man,
Ooh.
Kamala, like, hey, I had very huge doubts about anything going on with that side. I'll be honest about it. That DNC was terrible. Like the DNC was terrible. The RNC was terrible. I got
It
a
certainly
question for
wasn't
both of you.
inspiring.
Maybe you can. mm,
It certainly wasn't inspiring. That's all I meant. Like,
Let me get to
that
the
was
camera real quick so I can show it. It made me do this. That's that crazy. I can't. That's what I was looking at though. It's a good night, bull. Like
yeah.
I'm feeling inspired. I mean, like, shout out
She
to Jackie. Um, I gotta give a plug here.
Get it.
Jackie Bull, help me. Loster. Tyson.
Oh
Am
yeah,
I
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Jackie
yeah.
Loster Tyson.
Jackie lost her Tyson, yeah.
Listen, Jackie Loster Tyson. Danger, if you could do me a favor and put her name in the like find her Facebook. She's a Facebook friend of mine.
Yeah, I'm already going.
Uh, she should. Jackie Loster Tyson. Y'all, I know y'all been looking at this shirt on Riverfront Saginaw on every open that we do. I'm not taking it off. I gotta give her credit, and I don't know if you guys know, but the back of it is in highlight lime green, which became one of our colors. It says "Say Their Names." That was one of the things I put on Facebook tonight was "Say Their Names" because this was the first time we heard the Democratic Party actually mention. I mean, I know Biden talked about Gianna Floyd. Um,
He did.
I remember that, but it was not
Mm,
like
he did.
it was the wrong. He did not.
Did it
He
work right?
brung her up as a trophy, like, and it was not like it was not a trophy moment. Like he should have been able to be like, and Gianna Floyd said, "My dad's going to change the world, and I am going to make sure that happens." That's what she said. Proud Boys is mainly about putting women back 50 years. Control your women by keeping them jobless housewives. Yeah. Somebody said,
She's
"Who's
not wrong.
that?"
Yeah, that was Ruth
Who
Phelps.
was I don't know.
Ruth Phelps rushed that.
But Jackie Loster Loster
Yep.
Tyson.
Jackie lost her
She is the
Tyson.
daughter.
Yep.
Jackie Loster Tyson, and I know her name. It's just y'all be Bull. You've been Bull since you came on the show, but it's Bulls. It's right there. I can read it too. It's an
It's cool,
issue.
man. Yeah, we good.
Um, Jackie Jackie Loster Tyson, man, she went in and she made this shirt for me. We're gonna do a redesign, and we'll have some available for all of you with some catchphrases from the show. Danger has a really cool catchphrase that I love. I ain't gonna put it out there right now. Also, we're gonna have some signs for sale pretty soon here. I'm not gonna put that out there right now, but we got a really cool sign that Danger's gonna make the graphic for because he makes this really cool thing. But y'all have those available. But Jackie,
Do you
I
want to
want
put
to thank
her
you
Facebook
because
profile in the comments?
you
Is that
made
what
the
you want?
shirt.
Facebook profile in the
Please,
comments?
please do that.
Yeah.
If you can put her face, yeah, because then they can get a hold of her. If you're looking for a screen print, if you're looking for a shirt, hit her up. She does great work. She's done some work for Bulls. She's done some work for me. I plan on coming back to get another shirt. I didn't have an opportunity. I hadn't had an opportunity to thank her personally on the screen, and I feel bad about that. It was just a slip of the mind. I'm very proud of my Black News Tonight shirt. For real. Bulls.
Waiting on the mug,
Um,
man. Where the mugs?
Yeah.
they're coming. Shopify is coming. We're getting a whole thing set up. Me and Danger have been talking about that.
We
Don't
working.
be looking at Danger, I'm mad that you was like, I'm waiting on the mug. I'm mad that you was like, yeah, where the mugs at, right? Look, y'all,
Yeah.
listen, by the way,
That was
if you feel like you want to help us get to a better place, you can donate to at Black News Tonight. Wait, hold on. Oh, Cash App at Black News Tonight or cash tag Black News Tonight. Um, oh, there's another one. PayPal, Black News Tonight
yep.
at gmail.com.
I could put the links.
Yeah, he's going to put some links in there. If you want to donate to this independent media company, please do that. Did I say please do that?
Please
Like,
do
no,
that.
like ain't nobody. This is we do this to create awareness, voter awareness. We do this to create awareness on things that have been missed over by mainstream media. We do this for free. This is our job, though. This is Danger and I are musicians, but this is where we at. Oh, I'm sorry, I look like somebody. Um, I don't want to put but that's not the point. I'm gonna do it regardless, and we got some. I ain't gonna mention we got some really cool stuff in the works. I'm really super excited. But I want to talk to you, Jeff, because I haven't had the opportunity to talk to you on
Okay.
live camera since the Saginaw City Council virtual debates. Now tomorrow, they're gonna have a forum with the NAACP, which is,
Okay.
I mean, great. I'm so excited about the NAACP forum because we're watching that. Um, we're definitely going to be watching the NAACP forum. I believe it's 2 hours. There's 11 candidates, so I believe they were able to. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. I think they were able to book every one of them, which
Okay.
was awesome. That they were able to book every one of them, and they're always informative with 11 candidates in 2 hours. So I'm not. I'm not actually. I'm really excited to see what the NAACP is going to do because there's 11 candidates and we need to create awareness. But we asked a couple of questions about police accountability. We asked things. You asked about a police accountability, and then the second night we asked about it too. And also we asked about repairing the relationship between the police and the citizens. What are you? Who is your? And I'm going to ask you specifically if you're willing to speak on it. If you're not, you can just say I don't want wish to comment, and that's okay. But usually you're not
Oh,
that kind of person. You're always wishing to comment. You live in the O
yeah.
1. You actually have the opportunity to vote for these candidates, and I kind of want to know who's your five. Who looks good to you? Who's like, because we get to vote for five, and that's the theme of it all. Who are you thinking? You know,
Man, I haven't totally decided on my five, but I
hmm
can say, um, I
give me
didn't get
one
to.
that's looking
I'm.
promising.
I like Tavell Richmond. I really, and he not only does he have great ideas, um, but I like the youth movement. Like we got to get younger in government, man. Um, and that shouldn't be the only qualifier. Like just young, just to be young, but he actually has the aptitude and
He's a black belt. Like
some for yeah,
he's
and he
he's
has
he's
some
got
foresight. He
focus.
has some ideas. He has some great ideas that will move us forward, man. And I like Flores. I actually like Flores. He actually brought it.
Flores is pretty cool.
He actually brought it. Like you know me, man. I like a little bit of back and forth in a
Yeah.
forum, and he wasn't afraid to challenge people. Like he wasn't afraid to challenge Chief Williams. You got to do that because
What?
you have
No,
to you have to stand
Council.
out.
Wait, hold
Council
on. Wait,
person.
Jeff Bulls. Councilman Williams. Please refer to him as Councilman Williams because we don't. That needs to. No, I messed up. I signed him in as Chief Williams, but we need to refer to him as Councilman Williams. I didn't sign him in as. I didn't, but he is a councilman. I messed up because I did not call him Councilman Williams, and I still feel really bad about that disrespect because I should have called him Councilman Williams, but I didn't know. I was that was our first debate ever, but we did correct that the next night with Councilman Jamie Forbes. So, but yeah, but back to the main point. Bruck came to challenge that, and I was pretty excited to see that. Go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Councilman
Yeah.
Williams.
No, it's fine. But yeah, I like the that he was willing to call him out if he specifically on policing. He called him out because the question was asked, and that was my question was, what is the role of city council in all of this, in as far as reeling the police in, like what is their role, like, and he was, Councilman Williams was he was kind of non-committal. He was just like, nah, I don't think we really should have anything to do with that. Like, no, you're an elected body, and the person who's directly responsible for the police chief is your employee. So if he's not doing his job as a city manager, you as the and along with the whole body of the city council, you're supposed to be pulling his chain like, hey, Tim Morales, what the hell are you doing? So,
Mm.
Flores he was really, instrumental in calling him out on that. And he got to stuttering and you know what I mean? But he was right. Like if you don't have any power in that, then what's the point in having a city council?
Mm.
We've allowed them as citizens. It just spoke to something that really drives me and drives my advocacy in this city is that we've allowed city council to be let off the hook for way too long. They've punted the ball on so many issues, and they're either kick it to Tim Morales, or they'll say, well, we maybe I guess we have to go back to the charter, or they've made a bunch of excuses, and I've talked to Jamie Forbes about this. I've talked to Annie Bench about this. Uh, you're stop punting the ball. Stop punting the ball. We
I'm just
don't need a
interested. I'm just.
citizens review board. We don't need another body, you know, so that you can punt the ball to them. No, you're the elected officials. We elect the city council. To me, take that pro tem, mayor pro tem, take that mess off. We don't even need that anymore.
Mm.
Take that off. And but I got on a tangent a little bit. I'm sorry, um,
No, no. Keep
but
going, because you
we
speaking
have
facts, bro.
yeah, we have a real good group. Mine is serving Merrill. Sorry. Please, man,
Can you
make a video of
can
this
you
alone, and do not
can you
elect serving Merrill. I say that. I don't care who sees this. I stand on that. As Jeff Bulls, citizen of the city of Saginaw, if we're going to move this city forward, do not elect that dude. Please. My views do not represent this show. They're mine and mine only. They're mine and mine only.
I was gonna roll a ticker. I was gonna roll a ticker that said that, but you're good.
listen?
Oh,
I
trust me,
listen.
I understand that. Hey, this is a show. We got to be professional, man. I support you 100%. So I know where to
I
separate
mean,
you from me.
Jeff. Sometimes I bring you
They're
on just
my
to say
views.
things I can't say.
Me.
No, no, but look. I don't have any. I don't have. I honestly don't have any views on Curvin, and I'm not going to. I can't. I don't know anything about him, so I can only let you have your way and say. I never want to shut you up. Like I honestly think like tonight we've had some conversations that we should really do a spot up show and go through these candidates by one and look and
We
do
should.
research and history, especially
We
incumbents.
should.
We should look and do research and history on what they've done and have you back, because I mean I don't even think there's enough time in the day when you dropping bombs like that. Now look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I want to make sure we don't leave this off because there's a post out. Well, I'm gonna say it like this: one of the people that is running for city council. I'm not going to say if it's an incumbent or if it's a new blood, but what I will say is they
They
It's
don't
public
agree
knowledge.
with the views of the
No,
show,
they
or they or the
no. They
whatever
tried to say
platform.
that which they tried to say that Michael Flores used leverage something like when he was talking about police brutality, he used the investigations that's happened close to the city or nearby the city, and it was like it wasn't a leverage. It was him like making a clear point that this is not something he stands for, and I feel like it's funny because we can say something is wrong all the time. Oh, it's wrong. It shouldn't have happened. Oh my God, it shouldn't have happened. But until we do something to change it, there's always going to be 11 people running for city council. If they feel
Right.
that the face of this city is not moving forward to change, what is not listening and not accessible, and furthermore, if you don't feel that you have enough power and you always have to defer to the city manager, then y'all need to change it. Y'all are the people in place to change it. Like, I don't want to be at your meeting and hear you
Period.
ask questions. I don't,
Period.
we asking questions and y'all be like, well, we need to check into that. We'll have to talk to the manager. We need to do this. Like, there was like 3 questions that were deferred to the manager, even on the city council debate. So, it was like the manager handles this, the manager handles this, the manager handles this. Well, we've been saying that for 6 months. The manager has a relationship with the chief. The city council doesn't. We've been saying that for 6 months. Haven't we not? Like, I mean, how many
Right. We have.
protests have we been at? Like, how many, like, I made a statement. I said, I chose not to go to work during the pandemic because I have an underlying medical condition. And, you know, my former employer, one of the bosses made the statement that, well, you can protest, but you can't, come to work. And I was like, yeah, because here's the point is like, I can risk my life, go here, or I can go protest and um, make sure that the every day-to-day risk of my life, the bullseye on my back, something is done about that. And this is something that also could, whatever, but I always have a mask on when we protest it. By the way, I don't have COVID-19 and I have never had COVID-19. And the same people that are now saying that they acted fast on coronavirus are, anyways, I'm gonna leave that alone because we on the city level. So I want to stay on the city level. But the point of the matter is like, I'm sick of deferments too. I'm sick of hearing we have nothing to do with that. That's not my job. That's not my role. That's not what I control. That's out of my reach. But I
And
need
it's
my
not.
seat. But I need my seat. I want my seat. I got to keep my seat because that's the way it works. Like, no, I'm saying it. You've been there
No.
for 8 years and can't show no. I'm just saying. I got to be honest. Like, it's 8 years. Like, I don't even need to give you the decency to mention your name because at the end of the day, like, tell us what have you done? Like, I don't want to see what you're planning to do. That's just like the Trump campaign saying like that,
We got a
this
healthcare
they
plan.
acting when they speak as if the riots and if the ununifying country happened on Biden's watch. Like, Biden is the president of the United States right now, and that's not true. And you can't respond to those questions and answers like that. I mean, look, guys, we got 11 people running for city council. There's 5 seats available. Mr. Bull mentioned Tavel. Mr. Bull mentioned Michael Flores, but Jamie Forbes is running. Andy Bench is running. Reggie Williams is running. John Malign is running. Kervin Don Merrill is running. Monique Lamar Sylvia is running. Nathan Cullerson is running. George Copeland is running.
That's my guy too.
That's my guy
And I
too.
like
His
I Nathan is really interesting too. I really was he was refreshing. And I like that. I believe he's an attorney. Um, he brought some legalese to the discussion that I really felt like he really was informed on certain things that could really move us forward in the city, man. I really listening to him. Like he was really refreshing. He was really really
Speaking
clear
of
on.
speaking of Nathan Cullison, Nate Cullison, I'm sorry, Nate
Mhm.
Cullison.
Hmm.
Danger, pop that graphic up for Friday really quick, and Jeff, continue talking because I just want to make sure that we all know. Like Nate will be here uh, Friday at 10 o'clock p.m. for our normal standard show. He will be here on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Not Instagram, I'm sorry, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Nate Cullison is running for city council. He is a defense attorney. He will be here to chit chat and chew the fat with yours truly, your host of Black News Tonight, and that will be coming up Friday at 10 p.m. And I've said so many but yeah, I'm excited to sit down and talk to Nate. I'm very excited about that, and you can pull
Real
that down.
sharp, real sharp guy, man. Real, he was very clear on his policy positions, man, and it was really refreshing to when they asked him certain questions, man, he knocked it out of the park. I thought. Um, and Copeland,
Yep.
I really like him too. We
Mhm.
actually had a conversation recently. He wanted to reach out to me and see where I stood on some things, and man, and we were kind of in lockstep on a lot of different things as far as one thing that we really connected on was the need for community centers again.
Ooh,
Um, and,
facts.
and and that's something that's really near and dear to my heart. I'm a big supporter of First Ward Community Center. I do a lot of volunteering and stuff there. Um, Great programming there, man, and I'm unashamed in my support for them. I say it all the time. If we had four more in the city, a lot of what we talk about in the city, as far as when we talk about youth and what the things you know that they're into, gang activity, different things like that. I think a lot of that stuff will be obsolete because what they do at First Ward could be duplicated all over the city, man. And I think a lot of our problems with our youth, not having, programming and different things that they could be involved in, a lot of that stuff would be eradicated. We need that's another thing that's localized. That's something when you go, when let's swing it back to the police. When we talk about defunding the police, a lot of that, is about shifting those dollars to, community centers, and that's under Parks and Rec. That's a conversation that has to be had. I mean, we've shifted a lot of dollars away from Parks and Rec, and a lot of that money has gone to police. Um, and it's time to shift it back. You know, and even if I'm talking about community centers, but there Parks and Recs is a big umbrella, and even if you're just talking about the namesake, parks and recreation, there's a huge need. I mean, if you haven't driven through Wicks Park lately,
Nothing.
horrible,
Ghost town.
horrible,
The
and
park is
we've taken
growing
funds
up.
away from that, and we're paying
Yeah, I remember
police to not police. Like,
Mm,
no, we take that money back, and fix our parks. You know what I mean? Like, we
give
fix
us
our
another
parks.
wave pool, yo. Like, I'm sorry. I'll be thinking about when Saginaw was like fun. And we had a wave pool, like, and we could swim in the little wave, like, in the slide. Like, I know that the park is beautiful, and I appreciate the work done there. But I just be like, why y'all take it away from us? Like, we had one thing to do as a kid, like go to the wave pool was like, we going to the wave pool, mama? Like that was the thing, yo. Like what do our kids have forward to have to look forward to here?
I
Parks.
mean, don't even have that. I mean,
Really.
it's very few parks. I mean, Hoyt Park is funded by a different entity. I think it's like a nonprofit entity, like Friends of Hoyt Park or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the budget. They had to create another entity to even fund that. Like, that's all a part of Parks and Rec. Like, we have to get that back. I mean, because if you have you know, now we only have Hoyt Park in the city. Back in the day, we had Vets Park, where we had an actual stadium, an actual baseball stadium. Um, Parks where you had baseball league. Little league is like obsolete in the city. We don't have any youth leagues for baseball. None.
Yeah.
Softball,
We don't have
none.
any.
All of this
We
stuff
don't
is
have any
gone. And all of this stuff
equipment
should be
centers.
funded by the city.
We ain't got trade schools. We have. There is no. I mean, that's just me being honest. There's not a lot of options. And look, I feel like guys. Um, I want to stress this, and I want to get off here because I definitely want to have a chance to talk to Jeff in the business meeting for a second.
Hmm.
Y'all got to vote for 5. There's 5 seats available. I'm all about voting for 5 people. Look, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm not gonna go ahead because I'm undecided on some things. But I can tell you that I'm not undecided on Michael Flores. I'm not undecided on George Copeland. I'm not undecided on Monique Lamar Sylvia. There's a couple other people. It's not that I'm undecided on them, but I definitely want to sit down and talk to Nate. I'm very interested in Nate. I think I think he's a very intelligent person, and I can't wait to talk to him Friday night at 10 o'clock. Pop that graphic up one more time so we can close the show. We're gonna close with that.
Actually, I want to take just 29 seconds of your time because I know that we're like
Oh, you can take as much time as you want.
five topics
Yeah, go ahead.
disconnected from this, but we were mentioning the disconnection between the previous, well, I mean the current presidency. See, I even did it. The current presidency and the state of affairs, as if they were blaming it on Biden. And I this is a direct quote this is a direct pull from the RNC. 29 seconds. Just watch
Okay.
this.
As Americans have done throughout our long and storied past, we will defend our freedom and our way of life. We will re-elect our president and principled Republican leaders across the land. And with President Donald Trump in the White House for 4 more years, and with God's help, we will make America great again. Again.
We will make America great again. Again. Man,
Again.
Danger.
So at some point there was a lack, if there was a chart, downfall in greatness. I'm not sure where that occurred, but it must have been on Trump's watch.
Some white guy.
Disgust.
Some white guy will be coming to you soon. Danger got a new show up coming out in season 3 on BNT Network. Listen, he's still gonna be on Black News Tonight, but we're gonna be doing some fun stuff with him.
I ain't going
Brother
nowhere,
is
baby.
funny, but I gotta give Danger mad props for bringing up a clip of 29 seconds.
Oh,
to,
man.
to literally prove the point.
I didn't
that
want
I
to pull
made.
away from the beneficial additions to Saginaw at all, so I was just going to wait. I was like, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to bide my time.
Danger,
We'll be all
feel
right.
the need to interrupt me just like,
Hell no.
I'll be like,
I'm
please,
patient.
no,
You know
please,
me.
because those are moments that needed to happen when I was talking. Like, no, just say, say it in my ear. Say, boss, I got
Right,
one for you. I
right,
got one for you. I got one for you.
right.
Listen, Danger be on it. But look, guys, pull that graphic up for Nate
Yep,
Cullison.
here it goes.
Jeff, please stick around for the business meeting. I got some things I want to talk to you about. Please, please. Listen, guys, thank you so much for watching. This is something that we do to create awareness. Black News Tonight. Look, we're on it. I mean, we're on the 5th. We're going to be on the 5th episode Friday of our 2nd season. And I'm so excited to have candidate for City Council Nate Cullison here at 11 o'clock. Please tune in. I mean, 11. Oh, my God. I'm sorry. At 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock. Please tune in to watch Nate Cullison. All right. To the close, to the solo. To the close, to the solo. There we go. All right. So we're at the solo. Listen, I want you guys to make sure if you have the wait, let me do it like this. If you have the no, that's the wrong way. Come over here. Okay, here we go. Here's my finger. I'm trying to find it. Have the opportunity to donate to Cancer Services of America. Do it right here. I want to remind you of the ribbon. Cancer Services of America, Cancer Services of Midland. Please donate. Early detection is so, like, Danger has the stats, and I always forget it. But if you have the opportunity and you haven't had your yearly mammogram, men and women, or if you find a lump, please, the earlier it's found, the survival rate is greater. This is an
99%
issue that
if
is
it's found in the
nine,
it's 5 year survival rate of women with breast cancer is 99% if you find it in the 5 years.
5 year survival of women with breast cancer is 99% if you find it within the 5 years. Is that correct?
10
All
10
right.
year survival rate is 84%. So you got to get that
10-year
quick.
survival rate is 84%. Hey, I'm stressing early detection and donate to Cancer Services of America, because they help people that are struggling with this very, very, very painful, very, very life-changing disease, cancer in any way. Not just breast cancer, but cancer is something that affects the family, their jobs, their way to pay their bills because they're sick. And it's not their fault that they're sick. It's not their fault that they got this disease. So please, if you have the opportunity to donate anything to Cancer Services of Midland, who helps my friend Stacy, please do that. And if you have time to send out support to survivors, send out supports to people that are currently going through breast cancer or currently going through cancer, do that. Just tell them that their day is going to be better. Love on them, and stay away from them if you are sick, because with COVID-19 running around, you need to send a via text message because their immune system is compromised with chemo. So they do not need any viruses, period. Um, so hug them through the air. I'm being factual right now. We do not want those people having any more time, having a harder time fighting their life with something like COVID and cancer at the same time. That's ridiculous. So, with that being said, guys, Black News Tonight will be on at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with Nate Cullison. Have a great night. Give me the music, Danger.